Hey.
Hey, how you doing, Joshua?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. You want to introduce your band?
Yeah, I'd love to. Over here on keys is Jerry Bourget. His real name is Jason Borger, but we've just decided over the past few years that he's Jerry Bourget. He's kind of French. He's not French at all, but a little bit. Right there on tenor guitar and later on acoustic guitar is Brandon Walters. That's true. He's not French at all. Behind me over here on the upright bass is Daniel Ryan. And back there on the kit is Chris Farney.
Hey. Hey.
So I read that you went to college at Northwestern and studied art. You did
that's true.
Drawing and some others.
Painting and drawing, yeah.
I was wondering, now that you're doing music, have you been able to tie in the art? Do you do any like album artwork or tour
The first
posters?
EP I ever did, I painted a self-portrait of myself. And then I lost the portrait in a move somewhere. I don't know where it is. So if anyone's listening and it ended up in Portland, I'd love to have it back. My mom would love to have it back.
So you've got some pretty famous friends. You've got
I'm friends with you now and Brandon.
I'm thinking of changing my name to what was it, Jocelyn? What?
Jerry.
Jerry. Okay.
Jerry Bourget.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
If we make you French, you sound more famous.
Even more famous than me, possibly though. Zach Braff, Ellen DeGeneres, people like that. Do you have any like tips for me? How do you meet these cool people?
Well, Zach, I met at Northwestern in college, so we were friends. We've been best friends for a long time. And Ellen, I met her playing her show, and we became friends. She's a super cool lady.
And you played at her wedding, didn't you?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, I played her show the first time, and then you make the rounds, play the show, and then during sound check, she started crying, and she said, "I want to get married to that song you're playing." And so I just thought she was being nice, but like 6 months later, I got a call, and she said, "Would you?" Well, my manager and her manager, I guess, talked. Ellen doesn't even have a cell phone, and her email is Portia and her share an email, so it just says Mrs. and Mrs.
You don't want to give that out though.
You know what? I don't know it offhand, and if I did, I wouldn't give it out. But
probably best.
I don't keep it in my phone just in case I ever lose my phone.
So speaking of weddings, you were on Ellen recently, and you wrote a song for your sister's wedding, right?
Yeah.
How did that come about? Did she ask you to do that?
Well, she asked me to play one of my songs at her wedding. It's funny because Ellen's wedding is the only wedding I've ever played, and after that, I started getting asked by people to play their weddings, and I was always like, I'm not a wedding singer. So I just kept, unfortunately turning it down. I'm always on the road. I don't really have time to do that. I don't even have time to go to my friends' weddings. I just send a present. But my sister, my only sibling, she asked me about 6 or 7 years ago when I started writing songs. She said, when I get married, I want to get married to this song of yours called Lovely Tonight. And so I said, sure, of course I would do that. I'll play it. And then I decided that I was going to write her a song for her wedding, which I've never done before. So I did that and played it at her wedding about a week and a half ago in Ohio, where I'm from.
Were you at all worried about like upstaging the groom?
I actually wrote it to the groom in a sense, because I was wondering how I would write a love song about my sister, And so I've never really written a platonic love song, or a non-romantic love song, I should say. And so I wrote it as if I was speaking to her fiance, now husband, Brandon, not this Brandon. And so, well, I'll play it later so you'll hear, but it's very romantic.
So your new album's called Underwater, and you have a song Underwater on the album. Is it like a theme for the album, or did you name it after the song? How did it come about?
Well, the song Underwater is the first song I wrote for the album. I hadn't written anything in about 4 or 5 months, and the story basically comes from when I was about 4 years old. I had all these ear infections, and the doctor looked at my ear and said I had a hole in my eardrum, And he said you could never, because of these ear infections, a hole had formed. And he said you could never go underwater. I could never stick my head underwater. So that was awful, growing up near a lake and everything. But I guess I just acclimated and decided to live on the land. But then last year, he looked in my ear and said, over all these years, it had healed naturally, over all this time. And he said, if you want to stick your head underwater, you can try it. But I was terrified to do it because as a 4-year-old, he told me it would be extremely painful if I ever did. So anyway, it took a little while, but I mustered up the courage to do it. And something everyone takes for granted is that silence you hear underwater, like even when you're in the bath or, go swimming in a swimming pool or something. You don't even hear your heartbeat, like when you're sleeping. And I had never heard silence like that before. And all of a sudden, my mind was so freed up, I guess. And I started hearing these string parts, like cellos and violins. And I kind of wrote this melody while I was underwater. And that, I really decided while I was underwater, I just said to myself, this would be a good idea for a song, not literally about going underwater, but more as a metaphor for other worlds that you're not really a part of, And so that's really what it is. It's more of a metaphor, the underwater song, rather than explicitly explaining what it feels like for me to be underwater for the first time. But yeah, that spawned the entire album, and I decided that I wanted to have strings all over the album, which if you listen to the new record, you will hear it's old school strings. This guy named Jimmy Haskell, who's one of my favorite musicians in the world. He's an old school string composer. Like he did Bridge Over Troubled Water. Like he's been around forever, and I couldn't even believe I got to meet him, really, let alone work with him. It's really an awe-inspiring experience. So the whole making of the record was really something I'll remember forever. It's not like one of those just going in the studio and get it done. It was one of those really dream records,
Well, great. Well, let's hear some more music. He's playing at the Crystal Ballroom tonight, and give it up again for Joshua Radin.
Thank you.